Hello, everybody. It is Saturday, the 6th of June, and I want to make another video today. It's been a while again, but I've been searching, I've been searching to find my way. What the hell is it I'm actually looking for? And what is it I want? What is it I actually need? Before you go the way of Neville Goddard, which I believe is a true way, or the way of Jesus, whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. I think the first question we should ask ourselves is, what is it we're actually looking for? And I was going the way of material things, very much so. I'm not saying the material is unimportant at the moment. Until we found ourselves again, we will need the material. So for our survival right now, I think the material is still essential. We just need to get out of it. Yeah, but whilst we are still searching, we will have to make do with what we're given in the material world. So still, looking for the material at this moment in time will keep you trapped in the material. So we really need to go beyond that. What is it we're actually looking for? Now, the question we're all asking ourselves is, who are we? What are we? Where did we come from? Where do we belong? And I think this is where we are at the moment. We've lost the sense of belonging. We've lost a feeling of home. We no longer feel at home. We no longer feel that this is our home or that this is where we belong. And I think before we go anywhere else, in our desires, we first need to know who we are and where we belong. And from there, the correct desires will come. So that has to be re-established first, who we are. Now, I've been watching several videos about our capabilities, about the capabilities of natural man when we were still natural man. And what I found is several things regarding our bodies and how we used to use our bodies before technology. Sorry. Apparently, in our brains, there is a magnetite crystal that reads or interacts with the Earth's magnetic field. There is protein apparently in our retina. It's called cryptochrome. Kryptonite? Coincidence? I don't know. And it detects the magnetic field. It's what is used by homing pigeons and by other migrating animals when they read the magnetic field. And apparently we have got those abilities. We've got the hardware. Sorry, we've got the hardware. But we're not using it. So, although ancient people used to use it all the time, and some still do, the Aborigines in Australia can wander across an entire continent without being lost. They know where they are. They feel where they are. Yeah, it is below awareness or rational thought. It is a feeling. they feel where they are. There were seafaring nations, Polynesians, I think they were, wayfinders that could cross vast stretches of oceans without any instruments, by looking at the stars, yes, looking at the behavior of wildlife, at birds, if they were still within a region where there were wildlife, birds, but mostly they felt where they are. They felt their own body, the canoe or whatever, the boat they were in, and the currents of the sea. And they knew exactly where they were. They didn't need maps. When scientists these days say or deny that ancients crossed the oceans, yeah, because they couldn't have done that. Why? Because they didn't know the latitude and longitude. They didn't have maps. They didn't have sextants to read the stars and stuff like that. They didn't have a compass. They were all those things. They didn't need anything outside of themselves to tell them where they are. See, that is why we are completely and utterly lost. Because we are no longer connected to what is around us. We no longer feel at home because we no longer feel this. We were, and I say we were alienated. We were alienated from this world. We have become something that is alien to this world, where now we have the sense, oh, we don't belong here, we came from somewhere else, which is not the case. We are human beings, we belong here, this is our home. We just no longer feel at home because we were alienated from it. And here's the thing, where did this come from? This other knowledge, this way of building stuff outside of ourselves, yeah, and then relying on what we have built. See, the thing is, let me just say this first, the hardware is still there, yeah, we are not using it. David Icke says we only can see a very small fraction of the light spectrum of the full light. Actually, I think we can see the full spectrum because our eyes have not changed. And the hardware to see the full spectrum is still in our eyes. It's not our eyes, it's not our hearing, there's nothing wrong with the five senses. It's the brain. Because the brain will filter out what is not needed. Yeah, you do not need to see the full picture at any given time. You only need to see that which serves you. And with, as I said, having machines outside of ourselves that we fully rely on, then the brain has decided to switch that other information off because it's no longer needed. So again, how did we get here? Why did we start building machines outside of ourselves and switch off the information inside of ourselves? And I'd say we were guided, again, through an ability which I absolutely believe we have, and that is to connect to other forms of life, not using technology, but again, our own bodies. And it is what it says in the Bible, God makes man in his image to be like him. So, yeah, and the other thing is that if we could navigate this world without any machinery, we would not have looked for machinery naturally. What for? We didn't need it. Yeah? I don't think we look for things that we do not need. It wouldn't even occur to us to look for a sextant or compass if we know where we're at anyway. Why would we even think to invent such a thing? So I think that knowledge came from somewhere else. And yes, we started building it. That's one thing. We started building the technology. Simultaneously to that, what happened was obviously that any knowledge that came that other way, natural knowledge, was suppressed. I mean, it was called uncivilized, stupid, hocus pocus, and worst case scenario, they called it witchcraft. And you actually got killed for using that knowledge. And as I said, they replaced it with machines, which, and here's the thing, if you use your natural knowledge, it's free. Yeah? If you use your own natural body, it's free. And nobody has to give it to you. It's been given to you at birth. The machine was given to you at birth. You didn't have to pay for it. And you are actually free to use your own machine whichever way you want. There's freedom. Of course, if we cannot do it for ourselves, if we rely on machines outside of ourselves, they can control that. They build the machines. You need the money to buy the machines. You need to work for them to get the money to buy the machines. And then, you're enslaved. Because now the machines are essential to your survival. Because you can no longer survive the natural way. So that is how we were enslaved. When people say, all the aliens are coming and this world is being enslaved, I would say it has already happened. It's not something that will happen in the future. It has already happened. They are here, they were here, they are here, and we are enslaved. And the only way we can get out of this is by remembering who we are. And what it is we're capable of. Now, so this fear, if technology goes away, we're all going to die. Yeah? If modern medicine goes away, we're all going to die. Well, humanity has existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years without those things. What did they do? Yeah, what did they do? They knew. They worked this on a completely different level, from inside of themselves. They didn't need anything outside of themselves. They were everything that they needed. And what is needed to sustain the machine, the body, was in this world. Again, they didn't have to go to the supermarket. They could graze, basically. So, and they had, well, what you might call entertainment. Yeah, they had dance, they had song, they had stories. They had all of those things. They didn't need cinemas. They didn't need nightclubs. Yeah, they didn't need flashing lights. They were together and they did those things. And are we so much better off with our nightclubs, our lights, our blasting music everywhere? Now, one other thing I came across regarding ourselves, I mean, I've spoken about that before, that there were people, still are people, I would say, with special gifts, where the knowledge inside of themselves expresses themselves in a specific way, like in music. Then you get the geniuses of music, Mozart and the likes, in math, and then other capabilities, which were then put to use for the betterment of humanity. But again, it came out of the person, not from somewhere else. I've been watching all parts of this film. I wasn't aware of that. Hidden Figures, which was the early days of NASA. And the one thing I was never aware of is that a computer actually used to be a person. They called persons computers. There were women, especially the stories about Black women, that had immense capabilities when it came to math. And they were the computers. Again, simultaneously, while the computers, the women computers were working, they were building the machine, IBM. And I know the film itself is not completely historically accurate. They're putting some stuff together which did not happen at the same time. But it made a good story, and some of it is accurate. But in the story, and I've heard it from other sources than the film itself, there was one woman who was calculating they were sending a man into orbit, and she was calculating the trajectory and the re-entry and stuff like that. And the story is that the IBM had already come online and had made the figures, and the astronaut actually asked for the woman to check the figures of the machine. Imagine that. Because he was trusting a human being more than he was trusting the machine. And again, that is something we have completely lost. We're not trusting ourselves. We're not trusting each other. We will trust the machines before we trust ourselves. And in the beginning, that was not the case. Well, according to that story, that was not the case. The astronaut would have trusted the woman more than he would have trusted the machine. And maybe we should get back to that. So I think this is where we are. And here comes again, what is it, back to the beginning? What is it we should actually seek? What is it we should actually ask for? To find our way home. To know. To stop seeking home somewhere out there in the cosmos, but to know that this is home because we feel at home again. And I think to do that, we need to bring this machine back online. Fully online. Our bodies. And how do we do that? And I would say by seeking it. Again, the seeker, it is a seeker. Seek and you shall find. Nothing is hidden. It's not hidden. Yeah? It is actually still online. Right, sorry, it is actually still online, just our brain is filtering it out. So I don't know what to do. We tell our brain, sorry brain, we got this wrong. We actually need this information for survival. Could you please stop filtering it out? Well, I mean, I'm laughing about it, but I think that is the way to actually go looking for it again. And then if you look for it, you will find it. It will come back into awareness if you're seeking it. And I think that is what we must do. Because, I mean, if you look at the technology and stuff like that now, and our survival is at this moment, that's why I said I'm looking for the material, because I am actually dependent on the material as I am at the moment. Very much so. But we've built our existence on very shaky ground if we are relying on the machines. We are on very shaky ground. If we are relying on the financial system, we are on extremely shaky grounds. Because these things can falter. They have done in the past. These great empires will crumble. They always do. And then if we have forgotten who we are, we're left with nothing. Whereas if we knew who we are, and we are in nature, the world will provide. We will know where we are. That will not change. That is actually the solid ground on which we can build our survival. Not on the flimsy things that man builds, but go back to the foundation. And that foundation is a lot more solid than man-made things. And here's where, right, I mean, how do we get back to that? I had this thrown at me again. I keep getting that thrown at me. You don't even meditate. No, I don't. I don't use breathing techniques. I most certainly do not use drugs. If we want to know what is natural, we need to go the natural way. And that is not artificially inducing a state of altered awareness through beating your thoughts into silence and learning how to breathe. Hello? Do we need to learn how to breathe? I don't think so. Sorry. I use the natural way because there is a natural period of silence, and that is sleep. And I use sleep, and I use it targeted, with purpose. I sleep with purpose. And I have got a very rigid, let's say, sleep pattern. I go to bed at 8:30 in the evening. I wake up once during the night, and I'm usually up by 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And a lot of things that when I make these videos first thing in the morning, is the time of clarity after the sleep, after the period of rest, after the period of natural silence. And I think, again, this period will give us what we need. I don't think we need to go any further than that. But here is where this modern spirituality has gone absolutely and utterly wrong in so many ways. Again, I'm coming to the usage of drugs. I would say that, as I said, those natural parts within us with which we read our environment, the drugs will stimulate those parts of ourselves, but I think they're overstimulating them. That's the problem. I think they are overstimulating them. They're going too far. There is something we should naturally know that is serving our survival. And again, I think they're going beyond the point. Too far out. And too far out is missing the point, missing the mark. And the other is, of course, the New Agers going around, oh, we are trapped in the body. We need to get out of the body. We are having these great spiritual experiences outside of the body, out of body experiences. And I think they are not aware that they actually need the body to have those out of body experiences. Yeah, they're kind of getting detached from the body and they actually need it to do it. This is the hardware to do the other stuff with. So again, I think they need to come back to Earth to see what the source of that experience actually is, what is enabling them to have that experience, which is actually the solid body. You need the solid body to get out of the solid body. So, yes, but here's the thing. I think this is what we need to know first. We need to know who we are, what it is we're in, because only out of that will we have the correct desires. Because right now, this technique, Neville Goddard's technique of ask and you shall receive. Go to the outcome, create outcomes, manifest outcomes. We're manifesting outcomes from a place where we are completely and utterly lost. And what we are manifesting is probably lunacy from not knowing who we actually are. Just being driven by your beautiful imagination without a sound foundation of, what it is you should actually be asking for. So, yes, that's where I'm at the moment. We need to reconnect to nature, to the whole consciousness of this world, the fullness of the consciousness of this world, apart from not even just humanity connecting, but connecting with everything else, so that we stop being totally and utterly destructive out of our own ignorance. And once we know who we are, then yes, okay, go and ask and you shall receive. But then maybe you're asking for something sensible, if you knew what you were. Anyway, that's where I'm at the moment. And yeah, I think that's what we should be asking for, looking for it. Looking for it to bring it back into awareness. What we already know. Just the brain is filtering it out. And we need to know that. And we should do so without fear. And fear has been drilled into us, mostly by the church. Calling it satanic, calling it, I don't know, evil, witchcraft, occult knowledge, the hidden knowledge. We need to bring that back into awareness, because it wasn't evil, it was good. It was us being a part of this world on a completely different level, and we need to get back there. Anyway, here, folks, I hope this made sense. I leave it at that for today. And I talk to you again whenever I'm a bit further with this. Right, talk to you then. Bye.